Like they have to pack on the spots. There's red and white spot, and they have to pack for getting the food. So we reinforce like he once did, and we like pushed the food, and then again he was like waiting, not packing, and we were not giving food. Then he went back and he packed again, and we gave the food. And this way we were encouraging, we were giving the reward. And when he was not doing it, we were punishing it. So reinforcement and punishment, they are actually linked with the reward and like you can say regret. Like if you do something good, you will get reward. If not, then you will regret for it.
Right.
Cool. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Any question to it?
I don't think so.
Cool. So we studied about structuralism. I want you to describe functionalism.
Functionalism? Probably the way the mind or something functions, the way it works.
True. The way it works. So in structuralism, we were studying about its components, like the elements and its components, and then their function will be functionalism.
Okay.
I hope it's not confusing yet.
Yeah, it's kind of confusing with structuralism.
Yeah. Okay. So if I open this phone, I take the batteries out.
Yeah.
And I figured out that if I connect the battery in it, it will turn on.
Right.
Right? Can you differentiate between structuralism, what was structuralism and what was functionalism in it?
Well, taking the battery out and putting it back in is probably structuralism.
Okay, hold a second. So I took that case out and battery out. That was structure. That has its components that needs to bind together to work. So that was right. That was structuralism. The case, taking the case out and the battery, and knowing that it will work with it when I bind it. What was functionalism?
Knowing that when you put it back in, it's gonna work.
Knowing that if I connect the chip of the battery, those 3 pins together, and putting the case back, and then pushing this button to turn it on, my phone will work. And then like if I press this button, it will like turn on. That's functionalism. That it functions by pressing the button and putting the battery back to its right place. Does that make sense now?
Yeah.
Okay. Now we'll come to our body. What's structuralism and what's functionalism?
Structuralism would be probably knowing that, that.
Do you want me to give one example? Then you give one example. Cool. I'm gonna use my brain.
Okay.
So, structuralism. I have frontal lobe. I have parietal lobe. In my frontal lobe, there are most of the part that has got sensory. And like frontal lobe deals with the sensory stuff. That most of the time, and if there is the sensory functions that frontal lobe works in that. That's structuralism. That my parts of brain, like I have frontal and parietal lobe and temporal and parietal and occipital lobe. So my frontal lobe has sensory stuff, and functionalism would be that I got hurted and my frontal lobe censored that I got hurted, and similar to if I got cut, then it's a plasma to like cover. So that's functioning when it's saying plasma to cover the infected area.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, now you make an example.
Okay. For structuralism, I know that I have teeth in my mouth, and that they help me to break down food, so that's easier for me to digest.
Okay.
And then functionalism would be that
Taking bite and chewing the food.
yeah.
Cool. Right, that sounds good. So the last 2 terms, what is natural selection? So you can get the idea from the word natural selection. Natural means naturally.
Yeah.
Selection means being picky.
Yeah.
So do you want to describe it?
Sure. It's the way nature kind of sorts out what things work and what things don't.
Cool. Yeah, that's true. So natural selection is like what nature decides that a person would be, what naturally that comes. If I'm type of a person being, okay, we need to describe those terms too. So if I am a person who has got blue eyes and blonde hairs that I love so much, I don't have them. So I have like, I don't know from where I got. My parents would have that genes that came into me, but that's not what I selected. So that's natural selection of getting blue eyes and blonde hairs,
Right.
which I don't have it. Years before we had dragons, right? We don't have them now. Why?
Because they didn't have traits that helped them to survive.
Cool. Yeah, they were they were gone by the natural selection. So when we study science, there are some stuff that we study that man even had got the tail before, but now humans don't have tails.
Yeah.
That was natural selection like that. That actually Darwin gave the theory that the things which are not used are eventually but the natural selection kind of slightly differs when say that nature decides what you will get. So the appearance we have, the traits we have, the characteristics we have, it's that comes from natural selection.
Okay.
Do you want to make an example?
Sure. So I have brown hair, brown eyes, because even though my dad has blonde hair and blue eyes, but my mom looks a lot like me, and so she gave me that, but it came through natural selection.
Cool. So that's great. So natural selection is something that comes in your genes and become dominant. So we are going to study dominant and recessive too. What do you mean by dominant and recessive?
Dominant, like a dominant trait would be something that is more likely to occur, and recessive is less likely.
Yeah, dominant is something that actually show its characteristics. Recessive is something that you have, but you become the carrier of it. So carriers like you have that gene, but you don't show that gene. That is recessive in you. But you can pass on to your next generation. That your next generation have the chances of getting that gene.
Right.
Okay, there were 3 more terms that I was thinking to tell you. Okay, it's like, I don't know how I forgot those terms. Okay, introvert and extrovert. What is introvert and what's extrovert?
Introvert is probably someone who is more conservative, more shy probably, whereas extrovert would probably be someone who's more ready to voice their opinions or a little bit goofy.
Right. So introvert is you exactly said right, somebody who is like, who actually wants to be alone, kind of separate from the group,
right,
and kind of shy to talk to people. But extrovert is somebody like who loves to be socialized, to talk to people, being around the people. Because like somebody, if I like to be alone, just don't talk to anybody, or say yes, no, okay, fine, and then get to my own life. That's being introvert, not being socialized. Extrovert is like the person who loves to be like socialized with the people.